much, and that is my cousin. Very proud about that. And so the next person that we have coming up is another UMD alum, Moriah. All right. Hello, everybody. This is just giving me all the feels, the aura of student campus organizing as I was pulling up. Just reminiscing on my time here at College Park. I went to GW my freshman year. I hated it. I wanted a more black experience, so I transferred to College Park. All my friends at HBCU say, why don't you just come to an HBCU if you want a black experience? I learned the hard way. So while I was here, I was vice president of NAACP, and I also was a part of and directed the Vagina Monologue. And at that time period, we were trying to shift from just exclusively being a play, but to also using Vagina Monologues as a way to discuss the violence that women were facing on campus due to the hyper-masculine culture that is induced by sports, fraternities, etc. And so, as I was driving up here, I was thinking what I would want to hear back in 2015 and 2014 and 2013. We successfully organized what was called Occupy Stamp, where our goal was to completely shut down the student union, and a good over 200 students organized in Stamp, and we stayed there almost all day, and we were boycotting Stamp. It was an effort to really get the university to acknowledge the grief the students were feeling in the midst of Eric Garner's murderers being acquitted. And so shortly after that, it took me to a moment in organizing where we were right outside of Comcast, Kennedy Center, and we were laying on the ground, and I believe Maryland was playing UVA, and I texted Ed at the time. He was on the basketball team. Please, we really need y'all to do something to be in solidarity with the efforts of NAACP, and at that time period, the Student Justice Coalition, which was a coalition of plumas, of folks in Students for Justice in Palestine, from almost any student organization you can think of. We had come together and we had came up with a list of demands, pretty radical demands, and we were working together to push those forward. I said, can y'all please just come out? You don't have to wear a shirt, you don't have to hold a sign, just come up with your hands out, because at the time it was hands up, don't shoot. So he said, okay, I'm gonna talk to the team, I'm gonna see if they're down. And right before the game, he texted me, he said, the decision is that if all of us don't do it, none of us are gonna do it. And I said, okay, well, we're still gonna continue the protest, even though you're not doing it, and I hope that eventually you all will be in solidarity with us, because all of you know as UMD students that when the athletes say something, the university listens, because that's where the dollars are. And so that was our initiative at that moment. And so I remember laying on the ground and I was screaming, I can't breathe. We were all screaming, I can't breathe. And protesters, some of the most racist people I've ever entered this campus, UMD fans of UMD athletes, they prefer to see black bodies in performance, never with a microphone in their hand. And so they were walking by us and we were screaming, I can't breathe. And one of them spit on the ground right where we were. And I felt asphyxiated. I said, I literally can't breathe. I literally feel like I can't breathe. I began to have an anxiety attack. And in that moment, I recognized that the way that I was engaging with my student activism wasn't sustainable for my person. And I said, what am I going to do post-graduation? Because this ain't going to work. I can't continue to be laying down on the ground saying I can't breathe. My elders have taught me the words are spells, and I think it speaks volumes to the fact that Erica Garner, with her young self, died. And almost every day she was lying in the space where her father was murdered saying, I can't breathe. And so why am I engaging in something that I feel like I'm not going to be able to do for long? That literally is going to asphyxiate me. And so it led to me leaving the country and going to Cuba, where I had the privilege and honor to study and learn about the true meaning of solidarity in a country that is truly revolutionary in so many different ways. And so for the past few years, my organization, the African Diaspora Alliance, has been doing work in Cuba to truly unite and bring African people globally together to demand black liberation. So I was thinking, I wish I would have known back then was the difference between anti-racism and diversity and inclusion. And so I took some quick notes and let me know how I'm doing on time, because I'm known for rapping. Me and Colin, we're rapping away all the time, and people will always be like, all right, who's going first, Colin or you? Colin Bird is responsible, highly responsible for the name change that he demanded of formerly Bird Stadium. It was named after a racist president who said that he never ever wanted to see a black student at University of Maryland, and that's what that stadium was named after. So the difference between anti-racism and diversity and inclusion, and really, I think it's so important as organizers that y'all recognize the difference in this wordplay, because administration love diversity, inclusion, and tolerance. So I'm gonna start with tolerance, because that's the word that I hate the most. Tolerance is rooted in paternalism. It's rooted in white supremacy, and its particular definition was put in juxtaposition to our existence. And so when we are asking to be tolerated, that in itself is highlighting the paternal relationship that we have with the institution. We're not saying we want to be tolerated. We're saying we want liberation. And there's a clear difference. And so I think it's important when we're having these conversations with administration that we're not advocating for tolerance. Because tolerance allows for a black student from Bowie State to come here to get stabbed, and the University of Maryland do nothing about it. Say nothing about it. Empty words. Empty words were said based on my understanding. I was in Cuba and I got the news and my heart sunk, because I said, if he would have listened to us while we were there, I believe, and I still believe, that boy would be alive right now. I believe Richard Collins would still be alive right now if the university would have listened to student activists who felt white aggression, white terrorism, and nothing was being done about it. His life could have been saved. Because the difference between anti-racism and inclusion and diversity is that when you sustain and create an anti-racist university, white terrorists won't come, y'all. They won't submit the application. They won't come. They won't feel safe here. They know that they won't be tolerated here. And so if the university truly listens to student activists when they're demanding not for tolerance, but true liberation and power, certain things won't happen on this campus because they'll feel safe. So nextly, inclusion. Inclusion gets complicated because it's another buzzword. But inclusion suggests that you are going to fit Black and POC into institutions that are rooted in refusal to relinquish white power and incorporate change that requires dismantling inequitable systems. So inclusion will never be necessary if folks are willing to completely dismantle the racist foundation. You don't have to include me in shit if I have power, right? If we're already in a position of power, you don't have to include me. Inclusion won't be necessary because we already have power. Our voices are already heard. So inclusion isn't what we want either. And then lastly is diversity. We know, and I was in my travels in Latin America and organizing with folks, diversity exists throughout the world, and specifically in the Americas, and diversity has never led to our freedom. Having people of different complexions, of different races and ethnic backgrounds is a great thing, but diversity alone does not lead to liberation. What leads to liberation is relinquishing power. And so until the university is willing to relinquish its power, allow students to actually truly have power, create institutions that actually have teeth, because while I was here, every demand that we made, and I mean, we were protesting y'all every week. Every week there was a demonstration. Some were just 5 people, some that were just like this, and it wasn't no COVID, it was just like this. And we were asking for things, we were demanding things, we were outside of the president's house all of the time. And all they responded with was teethless advisory boards. They would put student puppets into place, oftentimes in the back pocket of the university, to simply appease us temporarily. Name changes are great. I'm happy that the name is different of the football stadium. I'm happy that Frederick Douglass is here because he wasn't there before. But that's not enough, y'all. That's not power. That's not enough to make white terrorists like the ones who murdered Richard Collins fearful enough to not partake in those types of things. And so I leave this with you today, y'all. More than anything, I want you to go home and really imagine what liberation looks like for you. do the homework of really visualizing what it smells like, what it tastes like, what it feels like to be free, and then choose which one of those things you're going to dedicate your life to. For me, my organization's focus on education and bringing African descendants together. For you, it might be art. For others, it might be moving to California and smoking weed all day. Whatever it is that makes you feel free is liberation, and it is directly contributing to the freedom of our people. So I appreciate all of you coming out here today. Saba's efforts are incredible. I remember feeling that fatigue, that activism fatigue, which led me to Havana. And trust me, there are plenty of days where I said, I ain't never coming back. But the reality is, white supremacy is global. So even in Cuba, I could not escape the reality that Black Cubans are the most marginalized group in Cuba, although they are the majority. And so I really, really hope and pray that the efforts here at University of Maryland continue in an organized manner, that you guys don't lose hope, but you move forward not asking for tolerance, not asking for inclusion, not asking for diversity, but asking for actual power that can be sustained and maintained.